Since 1934, Iowa's farmers have turned to the Iowa Farm Bureau spokesman as their trusted news source. Now, the Spokesman Speaks. Listen in and hear from leading experts on topics important to farmers and agriculture. Now, here's your host.
Hey there, I'm Caitlin Lamb, and you're listening to a special 3-part series of the Spokesman Speaks podcast. Over the next few episodes, you'll get to know our 3 Young Farmer Leadership Award recipients: Devon Murray from Floyd County, Randy Francois from Buchanan County, and Blake Anderson from Adams County. We'll be recognizing these outstanding farmers during Iowa Farm Bureau's annual meeting and county leadership conference this week on December 9th and 10th. This is a time when members from across the state come together in Des Moines to celebrate county achievements and the people who make them happen. If you're not already following the Spokesman Speaks, now's a good time to hit that subscribe or follow button on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any of these conversations. First up, we're getting to know Devon Murray. When he's not in the field, he's coaching youth sports, and he brings lessons learned on the farm into everything he does.
As any farmer can relate to, you have some good days and some bad days. You have some good crops and some bad crops. And so all you can do is move on. You really can't focus on the past.
Between farming, selling seed, coaching, and his Farm Bureau involvement, Devon keeps a pretty full schedule. But we caught up with him at his family farm near Charles City to hear more about his journey and what drives him forward. Hey Devon, how's it going?
Hey, good, Caitlin. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. We're super happy to be out here talking to you on your farm and celebrating this accomplishment. Can you tell me about your farm?
Sure. We raise corn and soybeans. We have a seed business here as well. I farm with my dad. We have a couple hired hands, part-time and full-time. Our wives are involved a little bit, and we have some kids coming up as well.
And earlier when we were talking, you talked a lot about your family, and you obviously lit up talking about them. Tell us more about your kids and your wife.
My wife's name is Sarah, and my children's names are Marin, Jack, and Clint, 10, 7, and 4. They're all involved in their own school and sports activities, but they all like to kind of come down to the farm, and we have a few 4-H pig projects, and they like to be involved on any day-to-day things. They're very excited for next week. School gets out, and they get to go pick rock, and so they're very excited to go pick rock. So that'll change, I'm sure, quickly, but right now they enjoy it. So
they're switching schoolwork for farm work.
Kinda, yeah, but they'll still be working of some sort, so they'll still have to get up early and still do their thing.
Yeah, do they get paid or they just get to live with you?
Both, I guess. I mean, the payment is living with us, right? So they get their sports paid for and their activities, and so I guess that's kind of a both. And we'll pay them something, and they'll love it, I'm sure. So
yeah. Well, we've already heard you talk a lot about the kids' activities and all the things that they're involved in, but you're pretty busy as well. Can you talk about your community involvement?
Community involvement is super important to me. I just think you have a small town, you got to support your small town if you want to keep it viable in the future. One thing I spend a lot of time doing off the farm is coaching youth softball for our local travel team. My daughter really enjoys playing, and I enjoy working with these girls to help them grow their softball career and also life skills needed to succeed in their futures. Help with the fundamentals of the sports, but more be a positive person. They need positivity, and especially girls sports. My daughter's the oldest, and we've always struggled, it seems like, to keep the coaches around, and it's a tough thing to do. I feel like my goal has been to kind of be Mr. Positive with them and let those girls get too down on themselves and work through it, bounce back, and qualities of life, right? Such as in your job, you're going to have tough days. So you have a tough play, move on, and enjoy it. You're a kid. This should be fun. Yeah. So try to stay involved that way, I guess. And on the Farm Bureau side, we're involved with a lot of policy with Farm Bureau and leadership activities and youth events and things like that. Some of the many things we try to do just to stay involved in a local community.
And when you talk about being a positive role model and keeping a positive face for young girls who might get down on themselves, I'm curious if there are any lessons that you take from the family farm and growing up on a farm that kind of translate into sports.
I think it's, as any farmer can relate to, you have some good days and some bad days. You have some good crops and some bad crops. And so all you can do is move on. You really can't focus on the past. You got to look at the present and the future, and hopefully past decisions can influence new decisions of the future to do better. Every farmer always says you only get 50 or 55 crops in your life, so you get 50 or 55 times to try it, right? So you kind of need to keep moving on and keep making your steps forward, I guess.
Yeah, I love that mentality. So obviously another big part of the stuff that you do in the community is with your local farm bureau.
Yeah, so I got involved, I'm going to say 10 or about 11 years ago, I think. An older farmer called me who was on the board, who happened to be a customer of our seed business. And he said, hey, you would be really good at this. Just come see what it's about. I know you like to, be involved in activities, and this would be a good thing to be involved in. So we went and kind of checked it out, and I did like it. I guess the policy part has always kind of attracted me to Farm Bureau. My biggest hope was, as we have all these things that are important to farmers, to help give them a voice. So you have a voice, you have a place to speak and give your opinions on this. And it truly does start locally and builds from there.
I read in your application how you have hosted different town halls or informational meetings on some of these things that some would consider to be hot topics.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of toe that line in staying neutral when there's such big feelings around some of these things?
Some have been easier than others. You've been at some town halls where some people can get pretty testy with some of that, and you got to stay neutral. At the end of the day, it's all about not the policy, but how we get to the policy, how people can disagree, but come to a conclusion at the end, and how can we get there. And so for me, I preference the steps and the process to get to that policy point. Trying to stay neutral, trying to keep everybody calm and give everybody an equal chance to speak, both for and against, and give everybody a chance to respond as well.
Yeah, and I think that's important. People sometimes just feel like they're not being heard. Mm-hmm. So allowing them to have that voice in this arena where you're keeping the peace, everyone's trying to hear from everyone, is super beneficial. And in talking more about the policy aspect of Farm Bureau, you had the opportunity to serve on the State Resolutions Committee. What were your biggest takeaways from that experience?
That experience was probably one of the neatest things I've done with Farm Bureau. Policy is kind of a passion of mine, and what I really liked about that is reading all of the independent people that put in things that may seem silly to me up here in North Iowa, but in Southern Iowa, they're super important, and it may have only had 5 or 6 clicks on it, but it's like, I can see where they can get behind this. And so I thought that policy part of it was really, really neat, seeing that, everybody does have a voice and things can start locally and really grow from there. And what may not seem important here is super important in Southern Iowa or vice versa. And that's what makes our state great, is it's very vast from north to south and east to west.
So in your 10 years with Farm Bureau, what types of things have you done outside of the county?
Yeah, so outside of the county with Farm Bureau, we've been on a couple trips to Washington, D.C. for a policy trip, a marketing trip. Learned a lot out there, met a lot of people, have made a lot of contacts through that. On the state level, we did the State Resolutions Committee. And again, a lot of networking, a lot of people of similar backgrounds, and have met a lot of partnerships and connections and friends through those events.
And I think you said one of the lessons that you learned out in D.C. is if you're wearing a nice suit, you might get asked for your autograph.
That was a funny story. We were out during spring break time, and some kid walked up and asked if I can have your autograph because you're a senator. And I was like, I'm not a senator. And the dad was like, you can tell they were tired of being there, and they just said, can you just sign this so we can get out of here? It's like, sure, go ahead, no problem. So
to some kid out there, you're famous.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They're really disappointed now.
Whatever, you're Iowa Farm Bureau Leadership Award winner, and they have your autograph.
Yeah. Yep.
And then looking more locally, can you tell us about some of the activities that you do with your board?
Sure. With our board, we do a lot with our Party in the Park as a local event in our Charles City community, and other towns try to do something similar. And we try to be involved at least once a year, sponsoring it, or being a partner sponsor, and bringing something to the table for them for the kids, that kids activity or agriculture facts, things like that. During Ag Week, we've done a lot with the radio stations, doing like interviews, talking about conservation or livestock or edge of field practices or, general farming topics or food quality, things like that. So been very involved with there. We're very involved at our local county fair. We think the fair is a very important place to stay involved. On Sundays, we have a live animal auction. We have started handing out ice cream a few years ago. Well, it started as a simple thing, and now it's almost expected, and it's kind of become a great tradition. That's ours that we really look forward to every single year. And we have a great board that steps in to do all those things. So it's many hands make light work, and we've really enjoyed doing that as a Farm Bureau board.
What positions have you held on the Floyd County Farm Bureau board?
Really jogged my memory on that one. I've been on the board for 10 years now. I've been involved in some sort of treasurer, secretary, president role, vice president role for probably 8 of those years, serving some longer terms on each one of them.
So what does your future involvement look like in Farm Bureau, you think?
Eventually I'd like to pass the reins on of the presidency to someone else and stay involved in the background. I would like to get to that point. I enjoy doing what we do, but it's good for turnover. It's good for new ideas to come into play. So really enjoyed my time as the president. Learned a lot, but I do look forward to the day of kind of still but staying involved, but maybe more in the background or a helping role.
Yeah, and in passing on that baton, what type of advice would you give an incoming president on how to lead a county farm bureau?
Well, I think a lot of them, they're already on the board, so they kind of see what works, what doesn't work, and they have their own ideas. So, the first advice is be yourself. Don't do what I did because it worked for a little while. Maybe it's not working. Sometimes you don't know. So be yourself and do your own thing. You were elected for a reason. Lead them. Let them trust you.
Yeah, I like that because whenever someone leaves a position and someone else comes into that position, you always hear you got big shoes to fill. Mm-hmm. But I think that they can just be different shoes.
Fill your own shoes.
Yeah.
You got your own shoes. Fill your own shoes.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. As a recipient of this award, you are given money to grant to another local organization. Who did you choose and why?
After winning this award, I had the opportunity to select a local organization to donate some grant money to. I chose to donate to our local Floyd County Farm Bureau. They actually are going to match some funds. We plan to buy a bunch of dust respirators for farmers. We're trying to buy 300 dust respirators to hand out to farmers to promote lung health and farmer safety.
All right, so we're just going to take a little second here to do a couple of rapid fire questions, really get to know Devon.
Okay.
So I'm just going to ask you a question. First thing that comes to mind, you just say it. You don't even have to give me any context. We'll go ahead and start with, what's the weirdest thing you found in one of your fields?
Oh, geez. We have found, you pull up a tire at the end of a field. You don't know where that came from or how long it's been there, or, old pieces of steel from an old steel plow. And we've worked this farm 100 times and you've never pulled it up until now. So there's all sorts of things you could say there.
What's most often playing in your tractor cab?
Podcasts. Big Cyclone fan, so a lot of Cyclone Fanatic stuff, I guess, probably as much as anything. If we're not on the phone, I'm on the phone a lot. So if we're not on the phone, it's podcasts primarily.
What's a phrase or saying that you live by?
It's a tough one. If you stumble, you got to keep moving forward. You're going to stumble, so keep moving forward.
Yeah. Nothing from Coach Campbell or anything like that? No win in the dark?
I'm not good at that, so,
okay.
Yeah. Win in the margins, is that one of them, I think? Or
win
something?
in margins,
is that one of them? 5-star culture or whatever? Yeah, there you go. Yeah. No, you know a few of them.
5-star culture on the farm?
There you go, sure.
What's a mistake you can laugh about now, but you definitely didn't laugh about then?
There's a lot of mistakes that happen on the farm, So one recently wasn't my doing, but it's still kind of one of those moments. We were planting and a marker got wrapped around something and did some serious damage, and the day of was not maybe a fun day, but we can laugh about it now because we found a solution and a resolution to replace, fix, and kind of laugh about it now that, hey, that's why we don't use our markers on our farm anymore, but you can see a difference in generational preferences there. So it was a lighthearted moment that could have been bad, but it ended up not doing much damage to anything else, and no big deal.
Very good. And then what is your earliest memory of being on the farm?
I was young. I don't know how old I was. I was very young, toddler, maybe a little bit older. But my dad was loading up a load of pigs to go down to Waterloo to the sale barn. And so it was early in the morning. My mom got me up, packed me a breakfast, and we went and took these load of pigs down to the sale barn, and then stopped by McDonald's on the way home and got a breakfast or something, I think. So a lot of little moments like that. I can remember spraying with my dad and having to manually push the booms to fold them in after the field. And so you jump out, and the whole job was to push as hard as you could to push them to the middle, to chain them together to go to the next field. So a lot of little memories like that.
Yeah, I love those little memories, those little things. My family farms as well. And so for my son, it's getting to ride in the semi down to the co-op with dad and getting popcorn from the co-op or like you said, McDonald's.
It's the little stuff that I think really impact, child's lives. And that's why we try to do the same thing here now and make sure we have some fun with just work. It's more than just business and work sometimes. Sometimes you gotta, as the kids get older, they get more involved and you want to make sure it's you can drive the Ranger and let them remember that, they know how to drive the Ranger, things like that.
Yeah. And moving on to your own kids and having your own family being raised here on the farm, you shared with me earlier a very special memory that I think our listeners could probably relate to.
A lot of farmers, as you start to get older, you can have the aha moment, and it hit last year when my dad was running the combine and my daughter jumped in the combine and she ended up combining. 10-year-old running the combine, turning around in the end, 12-row head, and she was doing a great job. My wife actually happened to be in the grain cart, and so my 7-year-old son jumped in there with her, and next thing I know, I hear on the radio, these two are talking back and forth as they're dumping on the go with supervision and help, but a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old kind of working together. And I was in the semi with my 4-year-old just kind of listening to the whole conversation, and it was just a pretty neat moment on one of our farms that we rent, and farming a good crop of corn and listening to them kind of work back and forth was a really neat moment, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great that you can have so many moments from early on and now probably well, I'll still say early career, not mid-career, right?
Yeah. Because how long you're going to work, I guess.
That's true. But going along with that, how long you're going to work, I'm curious what types of future goals you have for your family farm.
Yeah, I mean, future goals for our family farm is to keep our family involved. The farm dynamic is always a tough struggle, and this is no different, I guess. So my goals are to keep our children involved if they want to be, and have an opportunity to be able to provide them if they choose to do that. If they don't, we'll go to plan B. But right now is give them the opportunity that if they want to do it, it's here for them to earn and work hard for. They got to work hard to earn it, though, too.
Yeah. I love how you say if they choose to, because I'm sure that's a lot of pressure that you're part of how many generations is your farm?
Yeah, we're 4 to 5, kind of depends on when it started, but yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's great that you leave it open for them. One thing that I did hear about you from Laura Cunningham, who serves on the board with you, is what a great resource you are for young people who are looking to enter a career into agriculture or farming. And she mentioned a panel that you had been on in the past.
Yeah, so our board did a really cool project, and I was just lucky to be a part of it. They did a great job with a local FFA chapter. We invited all the local FFA chapters to one gym and do a Q&A with farmers, with our Farm Bureau board, with these kids in high school that have an interest in ag. And kind of one of my messages for them was just find your niche, find your value. The days of coming home and driving dad's tractor, that's not what farming is. So maybe it's drone spraying, maybe it's crop scouting, maybe it's soil sampling. Find something that you're interested in to bring value to your farm or to your neighbor's farm. And there's other farms that need valuable people, and you don't have to grow up on a farm to actively be involved on a farm. So a lot of kids that were there, I know they don't farm, and I can see that, but I know they have a passion for agriculture. It's like, well, let's do something with that. How can we help you find the right resource, the right partner, the right co-op, the right farmer, the right sales place, whatever it is, how can we help you do that? So that's kind of become a self-motivating hobby of mine, is how can we help this next generation of kids come through and one, be future work for us, or contract labor, or work for the neighbor, or help the neighbor out, or whoever it may be.
Well, it sounds like you've had a lot of involvement with youth, whether it's sports or that mentorship piece, getting them into agriculture or farming. Has there been a moment with a young person that made you really step back and think, this is why I'm doing this? This is why I'm reaching out and trying to connect those dots for them?
We've always asked our local FFA instructors, how can we help? And they said, well, we've got these kids that want to come out and do an internship for a day or 2 days or a week. And so we've done some of that, and kind of neat. We've had a couple that come out that have never even been on a farm, and show up wearing hey dudes and nice jeans. Like, well, that's not going to work today, dude. And so
like, hey dude, no
yeah,
hey dudes.
Dude, no hey dudes. Yeah, some neat opportunities where they come out and they've learned a lot about planters. And one of them came out, no experience. That's the day we chose to rebuild an entire planter, and he was out here learning how planters work, and his eyes were open to all of that. And it was kind of a neat moment that now he wants to go and be involved in ag in some sort. And so kind of every year you see those new stories come through, and it's like, oh yeah, that's a cool kid. Let's do this with them and see if and maybe they don't like it. And if they don't like it and they say, I don't want to do that ever again, well, at least now you know. That's okay. That's what being a kid's all about, is trying and failing. So that's okay. We got to be a bridge to bridge that gap of the farm people versus non-farm, and how can they interact, because they're going to have to in the future. And so how do we keep building on that and making that bridge?
Yeah. I used to work for an extension office, and we did a field trip or tour of one of Harry Stein's facilities.
Yeah.
And he had people there who were in marketing or research who didn't have that ag background, but they had that skill that they could apply to the job. So I definitely see where you're coming from, that these areas are going to blend. Mm-hmm. And I do kind of want to touch on that consumer piece, because I saw that you held a farm to fork dinner here? Was that bringing in a general consumer audience?
Yeah, we held a farm to fork event here on our farm in our shop. Probably good to do every few years to clean your shop out because they get really dirty really quickly.
It's a good excuse.
Yeah. But it was good. It was a nice time. Farm Bureau was very involved in that. We had our local FFA involved in that, helping serve the food. We talked about a lot of livestock and agricultural facts and things like that. But one memory from that is we took one of our tractors and just had it back in the back corner of the shop just for something to kind of cover up some of the clutter we had shoved in the back corner. But a lot of people went over and kind of wanted to go sit in it. And adults, people I never would have expected, but they're from town. Some of them were community leaders, business owners, and I've just never sat in a tractor before. And it was kind of an eye-opening experience of like, there's a lot of this out there that we can do more of. Any farmer could, kind of have an open arms approach, because there's people that would just love to be an experience of it one time, and they're in a rural community and they support our community in other ways. So we should do the same for them. So neat opportunity. Look forward to doing one again sometime.
That's great, because I think sometimes we can overestimate how much people know about agriculture because they live in a farming community or they drive by it on the highway. So I'm glad that you were able to feed their curiosity and let them sit in equipment that they might see every day but never get a chance to really interact with.
Yeah. There's always a running joke with some of your friends that aren't in agriculture, is, oh, you're busy for a few weeks in the spring and a few weeks in the fall, right? And we always kind of joke and say, actually, I think we're busier in winter and summer when you're not doing those things. And there's crops to tend to and fence lines to spray and rocks to pick and weeds to kill and how to manage all of that. And wintertime is you're managing all your financial decisions and banks and business meetings and learning and trying to do the best things you can for the next year. And people don't see those things. And so I think it's important as farmers to share those stories.
And standing on your farm, I can look over here and I can see the house that you said that your grandpa built, one that you currently live in. And then you told us this really heartwarming story about your whole family participating in harvest and being in different pieces of equipment. When you think about the past and all the things that your family has gone through in farming this land and the future, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so, having a multi-generational farm has meant a lot to me. Obviously, it's given me the opportunity to come back to do what I love, what I grew up always being interested in, So many stories could be shared with, about my grandpa farming and him kind of forcibly making me drive the tractor for the first time when I wasn't really supposed to dump on the go with the grain cart, but he just kind of was like, hey, start driving, so I'm dumping corn and you better keep up kind of thing. Or as he was older, I got caught as a 10-year-old raising the forklift up to get him into the combine because he couldn't walk up the steps anymore, and so things like that maybe shouldn't have been done, but we did them, and he was a big part of why I liked being around the farm. I got to see my dad and my grandpa, when I was a kid, farming together, and I thought that was really neat. And so as I look towards the future or start to live it now with kids starting to be a little more involved in doing simple projects and simple tasks, but while my dad is still here, even today my 4-year-old is out of preschool, and so he gets to come down and farm with grandpa because dad was busy. That's pretty cool to hear that kind of thing happen, and my dad sure likes that as well. So the legacy part of the farm is unique. What started off as a smaller thing has grown, and it takes multi-generations to build a farm to where it is, and you hope you can leave a legacy for your children to come back to if they choose to.
That's it for today's episode. Be sure to tune in tomorrow on December 9th when we'll meet our next Young Farmer Leadership Award recipient, Randy Francois. Thanks for listening to The Spokesman Speaks.
Thank you for listening to The Spokesman Speaks, a podcast by Iowa Farm Bureau. Check out more podcast episodes at iowafarmbureau.com/podcast. You can also find and subscribe to the Spokesman Speaks podcast in the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and other popular podcast apps. We appreciate your ratings and reviews, and we welcome you to email us your feedback at podcast@ifbf.org.